It's time for the Kim Hammer Show, where you'll learn how your state government affects you, your family, and community. Here's Kim Hammer.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Kim Hammer Show on what is an absolutely stunning, beautiful Saturday. I hope that you're out enjoying the beautiful weather that we've got, getting some things done. And don't forget, tomorrow is Mother's Day, so don't disappoint Mom, don't disappoint yourself, and don't forget to take care of your mom. Whenever it comes around to Mother's Day, we want to always remember those that have lost their mom. This will be my first Mother's Day without my mom, who passed away a few weeks ago, and so it does put a different perspective on things. I would just say that for those of you that still have your mom, that you need to enjoy her, take time to go see her, and just remember to tell her you love her. And then let's also remember, and sometimes this is a forgotten population, but I think we need to be sensitive on Mother's Day. There are those that would like to be a mother, but unfortunately are not able to because of physical limitations or other things. And so we just want to remember those that have a desire to be a mom, and let's remember them in our thoughts too during this Mother's Day that we're going to celebrate tomorrow. Moms are the backbone. And we wouldn't be where we are if we didn't have our mom. Always remember that. So treat your mom with respect. Make sure you show her how much you love her by giving her some attention, time, and just reminding her. All right. For our sponsors, I want to thank our sponsors that help make this show possible. As always, we have Everett Buick GMC down in Saline County, and that's there at I-30 and Alcoa Overpass. Was in there this morning, actually. Great place to go get your vehicle serviced. Whether you bought it from them or not, it's a great place to go get your vehicle serviced because it is efficient, and they've got a great lounge in there. In fact, when I was in there this morning, you can get cappuccino, you can get coffee, you can get juices, you get water. They had individual bags of donuts. So with the COVID-19 going around, you don't have to worry about other people handling the food in front of you. They've really got it all laid out really nice. It's a great place to go and get a new or used quality vehicle, and they will take care of you down there at Everett Buick GMC down in Saline County there at I-30 and Alcoa. You can shop them online as well, so make sure you give them a look. Then also want to thank Baxley Phillips Mowdy Realtors. Appreciate their support of this program. And if you're looking for real estate needs in Saline County or anywhere in Central Arkansas, give them a call because they will take care of you either on the commercial or the residential side, or if you're looking even for rental property on the commercial or residential side, they can take care of you there as well. Just because we're going through a difficult time as a nation, don't think that there's not opportunities for you in the real estate market, either as a buyer or as a seller. A lot of activity going on. If you go to Home Depots or Lowe's or any of those lumber yards, a lot of people are taking this time to fix up their homes, and so it's a great opportunity for you to be involved in the real estate business or market. And so give my friends down there at Baxley Phillips Mowdy a call. They'll take care of you. And then Edwards Food Stores, big deal going on in the news about lacking of meat, and about shelves being empty. Not an Edwards Food Store. When I was in there earlier, they have got their meat market lined out. They got their produce lined out. They got their shelves full. They have toilet paper, other paper products. You can shop online, and they will deliver it out to you. They've got the social distancing going on. It is just a great place that if you have grocery needs, they can take care of you at competitive prices, quality foods. You won't go wrong shopping at Edward Food Stores here in Central Arkansas or over there in East Arkansas. Okay, want to remind you tomorrow we will be on air at noon. Church I pastor, Saline Baptist Church down in Tull. We do our program at noon, and we are going to start back on May 31st at our church. A lot of churches are waiting until 31st or June 7th to get started, so hang on. Worship service together is coming, but in the meantime, you want to join us tomorrow here at noon. We'll have a special service or special message for the moms, and so encourage you to tune in tomorrow. You can catch it on YouTube afterwards if you miss it. All right, my guests today on the Kim Hammer Show are Dr. Childers, who is the Director of Workforce Services, and then in the second half, we are going to have on Leon Jones Jr., who is Director of Fair Housing Commission. And we'll have Mr. Jones on to talk about the position of whether you're the renter or you're the one that owns the property, about what your rights are under the current COVID situation. But right now, we want to welcome to the Kim Hammer Show Dr. Childers, and thank you for taking time out on a Saturday away from your family and your other duties to be on the Kim Hammer Show, Dr. Childers.
Thank you, Senator Hammer. I look forward to visiting with the audience today and providing them information specific to the unemployment insurance in our state and the program that is available now for those who are eligible and are ready to submit their information for the pandemic unemployment assistance. So thank you for having me today.
Well, thank you, because we like to get good, accurate information out, and sometimes I think a format like this allows us to, have the opportunity to talk about things just to make sure that good, accurate information gets out there. Could we start off by, do you happen to have the numbers available as far as how many currently are signed up on unemployment?
Yes, sir. Currently, at the end of this week, we will have a little over 200,000 individuals that have filed claims for unemployment since the pandemic started, and we're using the week ending March 14th through the current week that we're in now. The most surprising part of this, and I guess what puts things into perspective for all of us, is just looking at the claims compared to those a year ago or 2 years ago. While we had a strong economy, we've had the strongest economy in our history for many, many years, the number of unemployment claims fell to all-time lows. And now, of course, we're seeing all-time highs since unemployment information has been collected. So just for an example, the first week of May in 2020, we had 12,436 initial claims. Those are people who filed for regular unemployment. The previous year in 2019, we had 1,477. So 12,436 compared to 1,477 in 2019.
With regards to 200,000, is that split out as the unemployed that were receiving, I'll say, the W-2s, the actual employees, from those that were self-employed but have the opportunity to get unemployment? Or is the 200,000, can you define tighter who that number represents?
Yes, sir. The 200,000 includes those that have filed for unemployment, and those do not include those that are self-employed, that are 1099 employees. The Pandemic Unemployment Assistance is the name of that program, and we opened up the website. Excuse me.
I didn't get y'all choked up, did I?
Excuse me. We opened up the website last Friday, and as of earlier this week, Wednesday of this week, we approximately have about 17,000 individuals that have applied for pandemic unemployment assistance. While you ask me the next question, Senator Hammer, I'm going to get a drink of water.
Yeah, go ahead and do that. And let me lay the background for the listening audience. So when I have somebody like Dr. Childers on, who incidentally, I've worked with her as a senator in her capacity, both the office that she holds now, but before transformation, when she was over with Career Ed. And I have a high regard of respect for Dr. Childers. She's always been approachable, always given good factual information. And yesterday she presented before ALC, which, if you don't know, that stands for Arkansas Legislative Council. That is the body within the legislative branch, the committee, if you would, within the legislative branch, that in between sessions, we take up issues that might otherwise be dealt with like in a general session. We're also the overall arching group within the legislators, those of us that are on ALC, that have agencies come before us and give reports and give updates. And because we are in such unusual times, we had Mike Preston before us yesterday, and we had Dr. Childers before us yesterday, to give us an update. I'll talk a little bit, time allows, about the conversation with Mike Preston, who was on the show last week, with regards to the Get Arkansas Back to Work program. We'll talk about that if we have time later in the program. But Dr. Childers was there to present the unemployment numbers. And so I think it was important for people to be able to hear firsthand some of the information she has to share. And also, if you're self-employed, about some of the challenges that we have faced and why we've had to face them and what we're doing real time where we are now. So with that being said, let's go back to the 200,000. What percentage of the workforce does 200,000 represent in Arkansas?
Well, Senator Hammer, I don't have that information in front of me today, so I would not want to give you incorrect information. So I apologize for that. I will tell you, as we look at the unemployment rate going into, it will be announced for Arkansas going into the last week of May. So it's reported on May the 22nd. We expect, obviously, that the unemployment rate will be significant. However, the calculations that we have done reflect that Arkansas is not suffering as much as our surrounding states or other states in the country. So we're anticipating that number will not be as high, but we know that our record unemployment rates of 3.5% of our unemployment, it's definitely going to be much higher than that because of the number of those unemployed just compared to what we had, those that were filing for unemployment. I will tell you that just looking at the numbers for the continued claims, as we call them, those individuals that have claims and are continuing to file for unemployment every week, the week ending May the 2nd, we had 119,202 individuals that were continuing claims, and we had out of those individuals, 91,537 individuals were receiving payment. So that means that some could have continued claims and are not receiving a payment for that week because their wages were more than was allowed for their unemployment, or they didn't file their claim for that week for some reason, or they had other revenue earned during that week, which kept them from receiving their unemployment benefits for that week. I do want to bring to the attention of everyone that if you were on unemployment, receiving unemployment back in 2019, that earlier this week on Monday, we are now accepting applications for those that had been on unemployment and their benefits are exhausted. And so that program requires you to file a new claim, but then your benefits will be based on the weekly benefit amount that you had during the time you were unemployed and are still unemployed. So I encourage you to go by your workforce center, pick up an application, and then you can fill that out and do your weekly claims. And that all has to be done within the office. So you would need to go to the office to get to submit that information. You can actually stop by the office or get a form online and fill it out. Those of you that were filing before, you're probably familiar with that process. So you would you fill out your 501, which is your initial application. Again, they would put that into the system, and then you would begin filing your weekly claims.
A couple things that you bring up, let me ask you about with regards to going to the office. That is something that they physically have to do. It's not something they can do online, because I know the lines have been very long. Of course, we're in unprecedented times today as far as the numbers that we're dealing with. And having Mike on the show, I know that y'all have thrown everything but the kitchen sink and maybe even threw that at it as far as giving more manpower to get these claims processed and get them in the systems. But the congestion that is occurring at the offices where they have to go to, are we getting more manpower out to those offices to reduce the wait time that people have, or what should they expect when they go to those offices?
Yes, sir. On Monday, I was at the workforce center here in Little Rock, and their system is working well in that they are putting out the applications so that you can just pick those up and fill those out and bring those back and drop them into a box in the door of the center without having to stand in line. And that's also the case for those that are wanting more information for the pandemic unemployment assistance. So the lines were moving fairly quickly. Everyone was getting assistance that needed it, meaning that they needed someone to look at their claim and actually provide them with more information. And that line was moving fairly quickly. Our lines have increased a little bit because of the pandemic unemployment assistance, and also the benefits for those that had been receiving unemployment, which is called PEUC. Those individuals are coming to our workforce centers now to get more information, but that information is available to them just as they can go to a table, pick up the information, leave, and then also do the same when they return with that information.
Okay. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was in response to your statement about adding more people. Yes, we have added more people to our workforce centers. We've improved the process there. However, there is still a line and the 844 number, which individuals can call. That there's also a wait time there, but that I believe the average wait time, looking for my notes here, for calls the information I received last week was the average wait time was about 15 minutes. So it's significantly better than it was, but yes, still we're receiving lots of calls and lots of people coming to our office.
Okay. So when I had Mike on last week, we ran out of time at the end. The one thing that we were talking about and trying to get stressed is as far as people that are drawing unemployment. I've gotten some calls from employers who have called their employees back to work, and their employees said, you know what, I'm making more staying at home than I am coming back to work for you. I'm just going to stay home. We ran out of time last week at the end of the show. Can you speak to what the process is and what people need to know that are drawing unemployment, that if they get called back to work, what their responsibility is about going back to work versus staying home?
Yes, if an employer calls an employee back to work, that employer will give that employee notice, and that employer may determine that it's necessary to send that employee a letter indicating that they want them to come back to work, and then that employer is only required to give that employee 7 days. So I would suggest that if you are an employee, that you stay in touch with your employer, because if the individual decides not to return to work, they need to notify their employer, or the employer will notify the Division of Workforce Services and indicate that those individuals were called back to work but declined work, and then their claim will be adjusted as such.
Which, if a person is working a job that they're called back to that is making less than what they're making on unemployment, because right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a person signs up for unemployment now, they get the standard unemployment, whatever matches, and that's something I'd like to explain is if I'm working 40 hours a week at a job, paying $10 an hour, that's $400 a week, and then the COVID-19 hit, and I go and file for unemployment, what is it that I should expect to get in compensation, putting into place or figuring in the CARES Act benefits as well?
Okay. So in Arkansas, the unemployment benefits range from $81 to $451. That amount is determined based on your wages for your previous employment in the last 5 quarters. So an individual receiving regular unemployment would receive their regular unemployment plus the additional federal dollars that were added with the CARES Act. So they would get the original regular unemployment plus their $600 per week as provided by the CARES Act through the week ending July 25th. At that point, the $600 stops for the additional payment, and it would just be the regular unemployment benefit.
So if I'm
the pandemic,
oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, for the pandemic unemployment assistance, that amount is set at $133. That's a minimum amount. and then the individual must provide additional information and documentation for that to be adjusted to be a higher level than the 133. Then that individual is also eligible for the federal pandemic unemployment compensation, which is the $600 in addition.
Okay, so let's break it into two categories, because when we deal with unemployment now, unlike ever before, we have to deal with two columns, basically. One is the traditional unemployment that we're used to dealing with, where people lose their job, they sign up for unemployment. And the other is the newly created category or column that y'all have had to create a whole new software system in order to be able to accommodate. And that's for the ones that were self-employed but now are unemployed. Back to the ones that are the traditional, we'll call it, approach to dealing with unemployment. If I'm out making $400 a week, and let's just say as that applies, I'm going to say that would equate to, $300 in unemployment, plus I'm going to get the $600. So I'm bringing home $900 a week in my pocket, and I get called back to that job that was 40 hours a week, $10 an hour, which is $400. The incentive for me to go back to work is not there. But if I don't go back to work, then the employer has the ability to contact your division and report that, hey, I've called Kim Hammer back to work, but he doesn't want to come back to work. And is that a fair picture of how it would play out? And then Kim Hammer would have it put on his record that I refused to go back to work. And if I continued to draw unemployment while I had the opportunity to go back to work, what happens to me from that point forward?
So the unemployment benefits would cease. They would stop. So you would not receive the weekly unemployment benefit under regular unemployment compensation, nor would you receive the additional $600, which will end the week of July the 25th.
But as far as when that stops when the employer notifies you and you put it in the system that Kim Hammer refused to show up to work. Kim Hammer may be sitting at home expecting to get a check the following week, or whatever the delay time is between the time you put it in the system and the time it actually takes effect. But Kim Hammer could be sitting at home expecting to get a check, and a week later, I wouldn't get a check, and that's when it generates calls to you. Is that the way it works or plays out?
Yes, sir. That's how it works.
Okay. So, for the people out in the audience that are wondering about this and why I'm bringing it up, if you are an employee and you get called back to work and you don't go back to work and you think you're going to get that money free for an extended period of time just because you chose not to go back to work, you're going to be in for a rude awakening, because it's going to get cut off. And this is the way that I would look at it. I think our federal government was very generous in the package that they offered as far as giving up the $600 additional, but it was never intended to be a long-term supplement. It was intended to just carry people over until we could get the economy rebooted and people get back to work at whatever rate they were working at. That's what you go back to and get started from. And so hopefully people have not squandered the money that they've gotten, that they've nest egged it, or they have used it to get ahead on some things instead of just sitting back. The other thing is, if they, it will be on your record, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Childers, it will be on their record if they continue to try unemployment while they had the opportunity to come back to work. So when you go to try to draw unemployment in the future, all of this is recorded on their record, so you can look back in case they have to draw unemployment in the future. Is that accurate, or is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, we will have that information in their record, and it will affect future filings for unemployment. Okay.
To the other side of things, which we're coming down to a break at the bottom of the hour. Can you hold over for just a few minutes and have a little bit longer time, or you need to get going?
Of course. Okay. No, I'll be glad to continue. Thank you.
Okay. So let's get started talking about the unemployment for those that are self-employed that are now able to draw unemployment. I know last weekend y'all had a certain number of applications already in the system. You started standing up the system last weekend. Part of the problem is we didn't have anything pre-existing to work on. Our other system that we were trying to merge into as old as the hills, and the two, didn't talk. And it took a little while to get that up and going. So how is that program going now as far as people being able to log into it and kind of give us I tell you what, we come back from the bottom of the break, be ready, and let's just pick up there. We come back from the break. This is the Kim Hammer Show. Thanks to my sponsors, Everett GMC Buick down in Saline County, Baxley Phillips Mouty Realtors in Central Arkansas, located in Saline County, and also Edward Food Stores here in Central Arkansas, over in East Arkansas. And when we come back, Dr. Childers will give us the insight as far as if you're a self-employed individual trying to get the unemployment that's available to you now. That's where we're going to come back after the break on the Kim Hammer Show.
Take The Answer with you anywhere with our free mobile app, 1011FMTheAnswer.com. Tune in, iHeart, or radio.com. Breaking news and stimulating talk. 101.1 FM, The Answer.
Did you know that you could go to 3 random hospitals in Central Arkansas, be treated for 2 nights for the same condition in all 3 and pay drastically different amounts? That's right. According to Pat Davis, YourHealthPlanMan.com, in Carlsbad, New Mexico, a police officer was billed $26,000 for 2 CT scans. One, they forgot to put the dye in. That could be done at Johns Hopkins for less than $500 cash. A woman was bit by a rattlesnake in Arizona. The antivenom cost the hospital $400. They billed the insurance company $80,000. A 75-cent steroid injection in Oklahoma City is regularly billed $360, and on and on. As one of Pat's clients recently told him, this is legal theft. Our president signed an executive order making hospitals post their pricing online. Guess what? They've sued the president. Now this won't happen until 2021. Pat can show you how to change this, and in the process, allow you to be more in control of your health care and save a whole lot on your monthly premiums. Let him find the right plan for you. Go to YourHealthPlanMan.com or call or text him 501-605-6935. He's local in Cabot. That's 501-605-6935.
101.1 FM. The Answer. 101.1 FM. The Answer.
This week in the Town Hall Review with Hugh Hewitt, sponsored by the Pepperdine Graduate School of Public Policy and ADF, Alliance Defending Freedom. As the nation enters its 7th week of full shutdown, the money fight is raging on Capitol Hill.
We just want to make sure that federal tax dollars are supporting a response to the virus.
Kim Jong-un is missing.
So it's very unlikely that that regime is going to risk doing the kinds of things that would cause the regime to topple.
As the nation takes steps towards mobilization to defeat the virus, how will some of the most restrictive governors adjust?
I think so. The federal system is self-correcting. Once a state like Texas goes back, gotta either go back or be left out.
President Trump was accused of losing more Americans than we'd lost in Vietnam.
Yeah, we've lost a lot of people.
Join us for our program. Sign up for our podcast at townhallreview.com.
Town Hall Review with Hugh Hewitt, Saturdays at 7 a.m. on 101.1 FM. The Answer.
Hey, it's Dave Ellswick. Cost is the biggest reason most of you don't check into private and Christian schools for your kids. And we want to change that. We've got partnerships with schools all over the area that's offering half price, that's right, half price, 50% off their tuition. See the complete list of schools at dealsforlittlerock.com. For more information, call Lynn at 501-404-6545.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to the Kim Hammer Show this afternoon. And again, to my sponsors, which is Everett GMC Buick down in Saline County. Appreciate them. And it's a great place to look for a new or used vehicle. Always a great place to get service. And then also Edwards Food Store, Central Arkansas, also located over in Eastern Arkansas. They have meat, and they have really good meat. So if you're having trouble finding it at some other chain outlets, that's where I'd suggest you go, as well as all their good products at good prices in a clean, friendly environment. And then also Phillips Mouty, or Baxley Phillips Mouty, realtors in Central Arkansas. They will take care of all your real estate needs. I have on the show today Dr. Childers, who is the Director of Workforce Services. And so, Dr. Childers, we were about to start talking about the folks that are self-employed but have been unemployed, and they've been the ones that have been waiting the longest, part of which is because of having to get the new system stood up. So let's first of all talk about the system itself. Where are we on it as far as it functioning, taking care of people's needs? Are they having long wait times? Has it crashed? Or just kind of give us an update on that, please.
Okay, thank you, Senator Hammer. Yes, the new system did go live on Friday of last week. It is called Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, and this is for self-employed workers, independent contractors, nonprofit employees, gig workers, those who are exempt, where their employers are exempt from participating in the regular UI program, part-time workers, and individuals impacted by COVID-19 but not eligible for regular UI benefits. So this program provides up to 39 weeks of benefit, as we talked about earlier, with weekly payments ranging from $133 to $451. This will continue through the year or until the businesses, the individuals and the business is back in operation. As you know, the governor's lifting some of the restrictions, so a lot of our businesses are getting back to business, and we're excited about that. However, if their business is and has suffered because of the restrictions and the limited access to services and goods during this time, then an individual under pandemic unemployment assistance would be able to show their loss of income back to the week ending February the 8th. And so that documentation would be provided, and the benefits then would be calculated based on that previous tax year information. This website is up and running. It's available, as well as the information for other unemployment benefits, at arunemployment.com, arunemployment.com. The links are there to go online and to register to fill out the online application, and additional information is also available there. The applicants can apply 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., and there's also an 800 number that I will give at the end of the show, so that if anyone has additional questions about their claim, they can call this number, select various options that gets them to the agent that can actually help them with their specific claim, anywhere from resetting their PIN as they went into regular unemployment and tried to do their weekly benefit and they lost their PIN number or something happened, to getting more information about the PUA application and what documents need to be submitted.
I tell you what, if you don't mind, if you'll go ahead and give that number now, Ben, who helps me out in the studio here, along with John behind the glass, we'll get that up on my website, which is thekimhammershow.com, thekimhammershow.com. If you don't mind giving the number out, we'll get it posted along with the website you gave a while ago.
Sure. Okay, that number is 1-844-908-2178. You can call that number between the hours of 6 a.m. and 4 p.m. We have agents on duty until 6 p.m., but when they cut the calls off at, or the live calls off at 4 p.m. so that we can continue to answer those who are on hold until 6 p.m. every night. The number again is 1-844-908-2178.
So let me give you a scenario. A person is, which, this is the population of the unemployed that have had to wait the longest, partly because of what Congress had to do to get it down, but also partly because you had to get the program ready to go. But if a person just now, let's say, gets through the system, and let's say they get it started up this week, they'll be paid retroactive back to February 8th, or will it be retroactive back to when they can provide the supporting documentation as to when their business shut down? For example, if they didn't shut down until March 15th, will it only go back to then, or are all of them going to go back to February 8th?
Senator Hammer, you're correct. It's going to go back to the point in which they show that their business was affected due to COVID-19. So this is established specifically because of COVID-19 and those that are unemployed, partially unemployed, or unable to go to work because of COVID-19. So it will go back to the point in which they have documentation to show that their business was affected starting on that date. And then those payments will be paid up to to the date in which they are able to return to work and have or open their business, and up to the level that they were in 2019 as reflected in the documentation.
And we know that the requirements are being lifted. I know the governor's, working with Dr. Smith over at the health department. There's back and forth between the legislative branch and administrative branch. All this dialogue is going on back and forth about how quickly these get lifted. Hopefully we'll be in phase 2, which will, take off some of the other requirements or directives in a couple weeks, or by the end of the month would be our hopes, as long as numbers don't spike up. But if I'm a business owner who's been unemployed for the last several weeks, say 4 or 5 weeks, and I've got the signal to open up my business, but it's just not quite back to where it was when this all shut down, is there a transition time to where they can continue to draw benefits under this until they get back to 100% where they were when it shut down? Or once they open up, are they pretty well cut off at that point, regardless of whatever their business does?
As long as their records indicate that they are still not back at their rate of income, and as they had in 2019, they can continue to file their weekly claim, and they just show the earnings that they're receiving. So that will be evaluated by the division, and then those benefits will be adjusted.
What about the auditing procedures on these individuals as far as verifying the documentation? It seems to me that it's such a heavy load on the front end trying to get the benefits out to them, because some of them are just, strictly in survival mode right now, and they've been without, pay for several weeks. What about the auditing process? What should they expect maybe a year from now or 6 months from now? How's that look to them so they understand the value of the documentation?
Okay. So the individual has 21 days in order to upload or provide that information to us by uploading the document into your application, or by scanning it and emailing it, or faxing it, or mailing it to our office. And all that information is on the PUA application site. Then once an individual is receiving benefits, or when they apply for benefits, they are going to provide information, and they're going to testify that information is correct, certify that information is correct, and then they'll also see what would happen if they did commit fraud, and all of that information is listed on the site. Obviously, just like in regular unemployment compensation, the individuals, when they start reporting that they're working or that they're receiving income, that's the point that they would note that in their claim, and then they would receive benefits only until the time that their income is restored. So a year from now, when we are doing all of the processing and further investigation of these claims, obviously that person then will receive a letter and be notified as such if that's the case. And then there is a process that they can appeal it if they so choose. And yes, that is part of their permanent record.
Okay. So what are the current numbers? Do you have those on those that are self-employed trying to take advantage of this program? Do you know the current numbers on it?
Yes, sir. We estimated that we would have about 180,000 individuals that, just based on tax records, that would possibly be eligible. Obviously, not all of our individuals in Arkansas that are self-employed were affected. Some were able to continue to work, and did so. But as of late this week, we had received approximately 17,000 applications. I don't have the count from Friday with me, but I would say that it's probably closer to 20,000 today. And so we're expecting more applicants, but we also hope that this population was able to continue to do work and are looking at the opportunity to get back to work as quickly as possible. But we realize that there are restrictions still in place, which may keep you from going back to your highest level of providing services and goods.
And do they qualify for the $600 in addition to their unemployment?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
They'll automatically qualify for the additional $600 for the first 13 weeks of eligibility.
And taxes are pulled out of that, both the uninsured portion and the $600, or is that $600 without
Yes,
taxes?
Sir.
Okay.
In our regular unemployment system, that is something that an individual can determine. They can decide if they want the taxes, but unemployment wage compensation is taxable. I don't have the details of if that's an option under PUA, but in regular unemployment, it's an option for the individual to determine if they want it taken out, but all of those wages are taxable.
Okay. And did you have the number on the unemployed that are just the W-2s, I would call them, unemployed? Did you find that?
Yes, sir. So in Arkansas, our total civilian labor force is 1.38, approximately 1.38 million, and our those that are employed are currently are 1.32 million. And this was as of the report for March 2020, because at this point it's showing that we have 66,300 unemployed, and our employment rate was 4.8% for March. We will be getting the numbers for April on May the 22nd. We anticipate that those numbers will be higher, just based on the fact that we have more claims and we're making more unemployment payments, and then also the addition of the pandemic unemployment assistance and the pandemic emergency unemployment compensation.
Yesterday also, and I've got Mr. Jones on the other line, so we're going to transition here in a second and talk about renters and landlords. But one of the things we talked about in the meeting yesterday, that you're part of that discussion, was the actual disbursement of the funds for those that are self-employed and now unemployed. What's the current expectation is when they could actually realize money in their bank?
Okay, so Senator Hammer, as I discussed yesterday, we started our contract with the company to develop this website. That began on April the 14th. So we are not even at 30 days yet, and we are to the point now of testing the eligibility piece of the program. So we have the intake piece, and that's what you see when you go to the website. Gets all of your information, but behind the scenes we have to determine eligibility before we can make disbursements. So that's where we are now. We're testing the eligibility piece of that program this weekend. So yesterday I stated that we are shooting for the end of the month, the end of May, for these payments. We recognize that there are individuals that need the funds now in order to sustain their livelihood for themselves, and also just to keep their lights on at their business while they're ramping things back up. So we understand the need. I took the information back to our team yesterday after the committee meeting and discussed with them the opportunity to, or the possibility of getting those payments out sooner if possible. So they are looking at that and looking at the options that are allowed by law in order to make those payments to these individuals as soon as possible.
And that's one thing I want the audience to know, is that in the discussion yesterday, we did talk about trying to get some advances, but the software program, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Childers, is the part of the program that would actually allow for the disbursement is what they're working on now. So whether we could figure out a way to give some advancements with the intent that it would be withheld from future payments is still contingent upon getting that part of it developed. But the one thing I would like the listening audience to know is that we understand we need to get the money out. working on getting the systems in place to get it done, and hopefully we can do something before the end of the month. And the spirit and the willingness to want to do that was definitely there. It's just working through the logistics and working through the software and the issues that you have before you can just disperse the money. One last thing before we go and transition over to Mr. Jones. Our unemployment fund is down to about $737 million. I think that projects out to go about 39 weeks. As far as the state being able to fulfill their portion of the unemployment responsibility and funds, would be your opinion that we still are sitting pretty solid, although we want to get that built back up as soon as possible so we don't have to borrow from the federal government. But your position as far as how you think the future looks on us having the financial abilities?
Well, it is dependent upon the economy and how quickly everyone gets back to work. So the benefits that were paid in by employers as part of unemployment insurance that employers bought for their employees, that's the fund that's being used to pay out these regular unemployment benefits. So like you said, we've predicted or estimated that we have about 39 to 40 weeks that we can make payments out of that fund. And yes, then the fund would be at a deficit and we would have to borrow money from the federal government, like we had to do during the recession. So our hope is that this doesn't go on that long and that we can all get back to work and we can restore our fund back to its original amount.
Okay. All right. My guest for the first majority of the show has been Dr. Childers, who's the Director of Workforce Services. Dr. Childers, I know you guys are pretty much working 7 days a week, so I appreciate you taking some of your valuable time, spending it with us today, and tell your family thank you also for giving up some time on Saturday, and appreciate the work you do, and we'll be in touch, and thank you very much. Thank you, Senator Hammer, and thank you for this opportunity. All right. So now we're going to transition to Leon Jones Jr. Leon Jones Jr. is the Director of Fair Housing Commission. Some questions regarding, do you have to pay your rent or do you not have to pay your rent through this time? And so, Leon, we thank you for taking time to be on the Kim Hammer Show this afternoon.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
So we've got about 8 minutes left. Let's just kind of divide it into two categories. If you're the renter, what should I know as far as whether I've got to pay my rent through this time? Because there's been some confusion about what the federal government is saying you can do and can't do and how that balances with what the state law says. So if you're a renter, would you just kind of give it to him from that perspective?
Okay. If you're a renter and let's say you are in a public housing authority or you have a Section 8 voucher or some type of federal funding for your housing, then the CARES Act that was signed into law on March 27th of this year put in force a moratorium on evictions. And so if you're a renter in that category, then you do not have to worry about evictions for non-payment of rent. That does not exclude you from evictions or the possibility of eviction if it's something other than non-payment of rent. And so you're still under your same lease obligations and you still have to go through the same requirements under your lease. But if you are in one of those categories and you are having struggles paying your rent, then there is a moratorium on your rents in that particular category. Now, say you're a renter, but you are market rate rent. So you don't have a voucher, you're not living in public housing, then you are subject to eviction if you have non-payment. And so you have to continue to make your payments and you have to work things out with your landlord in that particular regard. But let's say that the landlord is a public housing authority or the landlord is accepting vouchers. Under the CARES Act, the landlord can request through their lender a deferment of their mortgage payments, which they can pass that on to their tenants, and then again, not worry about having evictions. And so that's sort of the categories there if you have non-market rate versus market rate rent.
Let me give you a scenario and tell me if I'm right or wrong on this. So on the voucher program, that's where an individual qualifies to receive a voucher and the renter pays a portion of it, but the other portion of it is paid by a government entity. Is that correct on the voucher program?
That is correct.
All right. So what the law says that while we're under this time is that portion that the renter would pay. Say, example, my rent is $500. I'm the renter on the voucher program. I've got to pay $100 of that, and whatever government source is paying the other $400. I don't have to pay my $100 of that through this time, but the landlord would still get the $400 from whatever governmental source is coming. Is that the way that plays out in the voucher world?
That is my understanding. Yes, sir.
Okay. As the renter, am I just totally off the hook for that $100, or is it delayed so that if this rocks on for 3 or 4 months and it's the end of the 3 or 4 months, I'm expected to pay that? It's deferred, but it's not necessarily forgiven, or is it just totally wiped out while this is going on?
I think that's an excellent question, and I haven't found any definitive answer on that question as of yet. I think that was something that we had discussed a couple of weeks ago, and I still don't have a definitive answer on that. I wish I did, but I would say that the federal government needs to give us some additional guidance on how we can advise people from that particular standpoint. I would hate to put any guesses out there or anything like that, and hopefully we'll get some guidance on that here in the next day or so.
But for the landlord who maybe is in that position, they also have some allowances, if I understood what you said right a while ago, that they could go to their lender and be able to get some forbearance while this period is going on, so that $100 I illustrated a while ago. But of course, at the end of the day, the lender to the landlord is going to expect that money at the end of the time, no matter what. So I would hope it would be the same thing for the renter, that it could be deferred. Of course, you run the risk of them moving out, if they choose to do so, and then the landlord's going to be on the hook for $300 or $400. You think when you find all that out that maybe I might get you back on next week if you find out beforehand, so we can push that information out, if you don't mind?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to. And to go back to what you were just saying, the landlords do get an opportunity to defer their payments for up to 90 days. But again, they need to work with their mortgage companies, and that'll be something through their mortgage companies or through their lenders that program will be worked out. But under the CARES Act, they will have up to 90 days. And also for market rate, let's say you own a place where you're not accepting vouchers and it's not a public housing authority in the state of Arkansas for the foreseeable future, the Supreme Court has halted all hearings, all in-person hearings. And so what that effectively means is that there is a moratorium on evictions. Even though you could file the paperwork to evict a tenant, you can't have a hearing on that. And so therefore, there is a moratorium on evictions for non-payment in Arkansas, even though it's a market rate rent.
Right. And part of that's because the courthouses, aren't open. I heard that maybe some judges are, some aren't. It's kind of really down to a court by court room case if you can get a judge to show up to do it, but it's a little bit low on the priority list, I think. Hey, Leon, I've got to go. I'm coming up on the end of the show. I really appreciate you being on, and if you don't mind, I'll get you back on. Maybe you can have that information and we can share that out with the public. My guest for the second half of the hour has been Leon Jones Jr., who is the Director of Fair Housing Commission. And hopefully that we've cleared up a little bit if you're a renter or if you're a landlord. But specifically, if you're a renter, don't assume anything. Communicate with your landlord to make sure that you're not setting yourself up for where you think you're going to be forgiven for something and it's going to accumulate over a 2 or 3 month period. We get Leon back on the radio. Maybe we'll have some clear guidance from the federal government on that. You've been listening to the Kim Hammer Show today. Thanks to my sponsors, which is Everett, GMC Buick, appreciate them very much, and also Baxley Phillips Mowdy Realtors for all your Central Arkansas needs, and then Edwards Food Store here in Central Arkansas. I'll be back on tomorrow at noon as Pastor Saline Missionary Baptist Church down in Tull. You can find us on the web at Saline MBC. That's missionarybaptistchurch.org. I'll have a special message for moms on Mother's Day, and don't forget, get your gift for your mom. Don't wake up tomorrow morning wish you would have done it and you didn't. This is the Kim Hammer Show. Appreciate you listening today. Hope that you have a great afternoon and hope that you'll tune back in next week. You can go up to KimHammerShow.com to see this show in its entirety again. Thank you.
101.1 FM. The Answer. KDXE FM. Kamak Village, Little Rock. A Salem Media Group station. 101.1 FM. The Answer.